Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another BKFC Reddit Ask Me Anything. We're joined by Josh D-Day Dyer. How you doing, sir?
Hey, doing great, doing great. Had a pretty good workout today, and yeah, I'm just getting excited for the fight coming up 2 weeks. So, ready to get in there and show them what's up.
Is it one of those things like it's about time? Like it's one of those you've been out for quite a while since Sturgis, you know what I mean? But it's like finally, you finally get your title shot, and it's about time that you get it back in the ring.
Yeah, I hate sitting around wasting time. You know, um, every time I have a fight, I'm in great shape, so I'm ready to go right away. I typically finish my opponents within a round or two, so I don't take too much damage, so I can usually fight within a month if I need to. So, yeah, this one's I see a lot of downtime between fights, and I'd like to see that stop, but it has been a long time coming. I feel like I beat Jared 2 years ago. I feel like that belt's been mine, so I'm just ready to get in there and take it.
It's one of those things too, like South Dakota Sturgis is coming up. If you get out of this unscathed, you could absolutely headline Sturgis. How great would that be?
That'd be pretty cool. I think that would be great. It's my state. I'm no longer the only bare knuckle fighter here. Now we got Trayvon Kid Cobra over here kicking ass too. So it's nice to have some company out here. But I'd love to get out there and headline and defend the world championship in my home state. I've been traveling everywhere since this organization started, and I'd like to keep my local fans happy and have them be able to come and watch me and support me and get all excited with that.
Okay, so speaking of local, somebody on the Reddit actually is from Sioux Falls and has trained with you before. He sent in a question. He said 605 Boxing and MMA now has multiple fighters that have fought in BKFC. Is there anyone else in the gym who is thinking of making the jump to BK?
Yeah, we've got a couple guys in the gym that are thinking about it, but we just want to make sure they're all ready first. We don't like to just throw people into the wolves. With our gym, we like to make sure that they're ready to roll. So yeah, when we get a little bit closer, a couple more AMI fights, a couple more pro fights, I think we're going to be looking to bring a few more in. I think bare knuckles a good fit for our gym. We got a lot of high level strikers in there, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, his second part of the question is, what is the training program like for the bare knuckle fighters at your gym?
Yeah, so we take strength and conditioning very seriously. With the 2 minute rounds, we get a little bit more leeway with the cardio. So we take a really strong approach to strength conditioning, so we can get there and really hurt people when we hit them. It's not like MMA where you got to be able to go 5 rounds and have endless cardio. So we can throw on another 20 pounds of muscle and get in there and try to end this quick. So we make sure that people get really really strong. We're very fight specific whenever we build that muscle. So everything is designed to make our punches stronger and and more explosive, and to be able to do it as long as it takes.
All right, and his last part says, when you win the belt, is there any chance you convince Dave to bring the fights to Sioux Falls so nobody has to drive that far all the way across the state?
That's the goal. That nothing would make me happier than to bring in a world championship home to my hometown, and then getting all our local friends, family, and fans to get out here and support us locally. I felt like whenever I went down to Tampa and I fought for the world championship in Jared Warren's backyard, and he quit in front of his entire town on pay-per-view for a world championship fight from a legal punch. That was pretty much a disgrace. And most of my local people messaged me and they're like, dude, we know you would never do that, no matter what. Like you could break every bone in your body and you'd still be out there fighting. I'm like, I know, and I'd like to prove that to them. So if we can get something local, that'd be amazing. So yeah, I'll have to see if I can speak with Dave a little bit and see if we can get something rolling.
I literally interviewed Jared a couple hours ago, and he did not have great things to say about you. And I thought maybe it was a little bit of manufactured heat, but it sounds like, I mean, from your part, you guys do not like each other. So I see a trilogy fight at some point down the line. Why don't you like each other?
Well, we were pretty good friends before everything went down. I went out there and whenever I dropped him twice in that fight, things were going pretty smooth. But then they called that punch illegal, and so I went over to him and I was just like, "Hey, man," I'm like, "I thought that punch was clean, and the video proved it." But I was just like, "Hey, if you feel like you need to, come back and reschedule, if there's any chance that that punch wasn't legal, then I don't want to win it like this, But let's redo this." And he said, "Sounds good." Went over, called the fight, and so my thought was that we were going to fight again for this belt. I wasn't upset yet. What I got upset from was, when I messaged him later and I was like, "Hey, man," I'm like, they like to sit us on our asses for a while after fights like this. So let's stir up a little bit of drama. Let's get out there talking. Let's get this fight back up. You'll make money, I make money, and then we'll get to fight for it again. That way it's mutually beneficial. And he made it sound like it was cool. So we got together. I started talking shit on his page, making myself look like a dick to his fans, so then they could jump on there and be like, "Oh yeah, you gotta go whoop his ass." Well, he ended up blocking me on everything, and I was like, "What?" And then he went off and fought, 2 other times, and I just got sidelined for like a year, and I was like, "Damn!" Like, I thought that you were gonna like have my back on this, but apparently he decided that that wasn't the case. And I don't know if he was actually like upset or if he just really didn't want to fight me, but he blocked me everywhere and ran like a little girl. So after that, I was like, damn, dude, I thought I cut you a pretty serious break when we were over there. And it is what it is, you know, like you can't, I mean, the dude's a coward. I mean, he quits. Like he's quit on me twice. He quit the first time we fought and he quit the second time. And I'm just like, some people, you break them down enough, they quit. But that's just the way it goes, man. It's a brutal sport. I'm here to make people quit. So that's what I do.
All right, here's a fun question for you. Austin sent it in. He said, ask you about his mom's special K bars that you ate after the Lorenzo Hunt fight.
Oh shit. Yeah, so that's actually a crazy funny story. So Austin, my physical trainer, and I just want to make a quick little comment here. He's the best physical trainer for sure in the state of South Dakota. He went and he trained with the National Institute of Sports Medicine. You know, after that he went down and trained with the two-time strength and conditioning coach of the year for combat athletes, Phil DeRue. And that guy's, it's been like 5 years in a row. That guy's been #1 in the world. And he's training like all sorts of the best guys in the world, And so anyway, Austin's mom, however, she makes these special K bars that are they're so thick, full of peanut butter. They're delicious. And I've been eating these things for years. I mean, like, I swear to God, one bar could feed like a family of 5 for a week. And they're so thick and dense and truly delicious. Well, anyway, went down, fought Lorenzo Hunt. Clearly, things didn't go the way I planned. And that dude busted me up good. I spent the whole night in the hospital. I had fractures in my jaw. My eyeball was bleeding. You know, I was puking up blood. I was half concussed. And the funny thing is that the only thing that made that whole trip worth it was those special K bars on the way back. And I mean, we drove down to Birmingham for that fight. So we had like an 18-hour drive back. And I'm sitting here, my teeth all feel like they're rearranged. I'm sitting here like, oh God. And I look over that box of special K bars and I'm like, damn, this is going to hurt, but it's going to be extremely worth it. Freaking grabbed one of those bars and every bite was like a level 10 out of 10 of pain. But I kept eating. I was like, oh God, I can't stop. I'm like chewing like a broken jaw over here. I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, they're hilarious. But yeah, we joke about that all the time because of how delicious those special K bars are. I'm like, they're so good, you'll eat them with a broken jaw. So I always try to recommend them at group settings. Like, you got to try the special K bar. Every time she brings them, I'm like, everybody gets one. You got to try it.
That's a great story. Okay, people on the Reddit were curious. What's your walk around weight? You're a big guy. Like,
Oh yeah.
what do you walk around at?
Well, it depends. You know, the last fight that when I fought Wild Bill, my walk around weight was roughly 222 pounds. You know, so I cut 36 pounds to fight Wild Bill, and this time I'm walking around at about 210. So I'm a little lighter. We're gonna fight in Utah. You know, I want to have a little bit more cardio. So yeah, I'm gonna be cutting about 25 pounds for this fight.
Okay, this person said, do you have an official camp with other fighters to prepare for Mike, or is it just you and Austin?
You know, I mostly just train by myself. You know, I go down to 605 and I let Kid Cobra beat me up a little bit, and I go a couple rounds with the guys. But I'm mostly self-taught. You know, like I watch YouTube, I practice by myself, I visualize what I'm gonna do. I go and I'll test it on other people. But no, I don't have a camp full of professional fighters. You know, I got Kid Cobra, and that's and a couple of amateurs, and there's a couple of other guys in there that are up and coming also. But I don't travel, I don't do full camps like anything like that. I just show up built with a warship full of muscle, ready to rock somebody, and a really good strategy. I have a very good strategist. You know, we go through all the game plans. I've got A, B, C, D backup ready to go, and we drill those. So I watch a video. You know, I study my opponents. I break things down, slow motion. So when I get in there, I'm pretty specialized in what I'm doing per opponent.
Okay, so I guess this question tags right into that. It says, "Is Mike a tougher opponent to prepare for than your past opponents?"
100%. Yeah, with the exception of Lorenzo, Mike makes all my previous opponents look like nothing. You know, he's a truly devastating man, and if anybody that saw what he did to Lorenzo has to understand what he's capable of. You know, that was one of the scariest rounds I've ever seen in my life, and he brings that to the table. So yeah, he's got something that not a lot of people have in this sport, and yeah, we're gonna have to take care of that real carefully.
So I talked to Cochran, I talked to Jared, and they both have fought Mike, and they both have the same thing, that he's pinpoint with his accuracy. Like, he doesn't have necessarily crazy power, but like he will touch you exactly where he needs to touch you. So like you're a guy who swarms people. He's a much more strategic fighter. So it's one of those, if you can swarm him right off the bat, I see this being an easy win for you. But like if you don't get that great start, Mike's a little bit of a slower start, you know what I mean? And you are not. You are balls to the wall right away. So this is gonna be a great fight.
Yeah, I like to describe myself as an aggressive, counter striker, pressure fighter. I'm hitting it all. I'm coming at you, but I'm also countering you while you're trying to snipe me. So there's a lot of elements to my game, but it's a high octane, high energy output, style. So I mean, it does do well right off the bat, especially if people like to start slow. They like to get the feeling and move and see how the punches feel and what I'm gonna do. And I just find there's more advantage in just smashing dudes, just going right for it, hit him a couple times, whatever game plan they're thinking about is out the window. Mike is very accurate. We analyze his video. We've watched him in slow motion. We see he hits what he aims for, and he's very, very accurate. So we're going to make sure that we have a couple of tricks up our sleeve for that guy.
It's kind of unfortunate that it's two guys from the upper Midwest and they're fighting out West. I would have loved if this card could have been somewhere, back where I'm from northern Wisconsin, you know what I mean? Like I would have loved to have been able to get to this fight and it's out there in Utah. Like how soon do you think we see like an upper Midwest card? We have such a great fan base out here.
It should be coming relatively soon. South Dakota just legalized it. We're growing. Omaha's only a couple hours from here, like 2.5, 3 hours. So, I mean, We're not that far out of the way. A little bit of tweaking with the commission, and we should be able to make it rock. We already got Sturgis. We're planning on going back to Sturgis, and to be able to get something, Sioux Falls. Man, we got the arena out here. I want to say it holds 5,000-6,000 people. That's plenty for a show. We can pack this whole town. Guarantee you, we'll fill the stadium up. And that would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind going out to the cities either, and going to Mike's ground for this one. But they want us to do it out in good old Salt Lake City, Utah. So I guess we'll go over there and struggle through the elevation and see what we can come up with.
All right, here's kind of a fun one for you that Austin sent. He said, ask him about getting his leg stitched up by a guy wearing cheetah print swim trunks using a needle and thread.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so 4th of July a couple of years ago, I went out to one of my buddies' places. We advertised for like a whole month about this is going to be the party of the year. Mm-hmm. Had a big acreage out there. We got all these fireworks. We're like, hey, just don't worry. We're going to have everything we need. Just bring you, we're going to celebrate, have a good time. We had all the lifted trucks out. We're shooting fireworks off to let everybody know where to come. And we come rolling in, and it's just the sun's just starting to go down, and we hadn't officially started shooting off the shells yet, but I decided it'd be a really good idea to go and just not tell anybody and just shoot one off right now and scare the hell out of everybody while they're all chilling and mingling. We had like 100 people there. And so I walk over and I light this thing as secretively as I can, and the shell explodes, like just shoots up like 1 foot in the air and stops, and it looks like the sun is just chilling right in front of my face. And I was just like, oh shit. And so I turned to run. This thing explodes to my back. I run right through a barbed wire fence. I jump over the fence, and I'm like, holy shit. I look down and I see blood running down my leg, and it had gashed my calf open. And I'm like, great, we're way out in the country. It's 4th of July. We're nowhere near a hospital. We're in hillbilly heaven out here. And I was like, we'll just super glue it shut. So, I super glued it, wrapped it up. I'm like, it'll heal for sure. And everybody's like, nah, it's not going to heal. I'm like, it'll heal. So a week later, I take the bandages off. Totally wasn't healed. It was like still open. And I was like, shit. I'm like, well, let's go get a needle and thread. I'm going to sew this up. So I'm looking for, a sewing, like not like a sewing needle, but I'm looking for like a suture kit.
Sure.
Couldn't find them anywhere. I didn't realize it was kind of like difficult to find. So I just got some needles for threading and some thread. Came back, went to my trainer's house. Like, hey, Austin, and he just sewed my leg up. And this dude, he's all in his cheetah print and everything. He's like ready to roll. And he's like, let's get it. And so he's down there just shoving this dull needle through my leg, and in a week of that skin being separated, the skin got tough. So it's like leather trying to stab through this. I took it though, for like a good 20 minutes. He's just over here with a pair of pliers, just stabbing through, going through. It tied that thing shut, and you can't even see a scar now. It looks great. He did a great job. But I got a high pain tolerance, so I kind of get myself into a lot of goofy situations.
You look at you, you good look, you're a good looking guy, you're all the muscles. You look like you could be a surfer. What are you doing in South Dakota? Has there been any like, oh, I should get out of South Dakota? Do you just love it out there? Like, or has it been like, I should, you could be in movies. You could be, I mean, like I said, you're a good looking guy. You could do the acting or modeling or something. Like, what keeps you in South Dakota?
My family, I moved down to Florida a couple years ago, and I thought I was going to make a life down there. And then, we decided to come back for vacation, and, yeah, people miss their home up here. And I'm from Georgia originally, but, the rest of the family is from here in South Dakota. So, it's hard to, take a family away from, the grandparents and all that stuff. So we ended up, staying here. We're like, all right, well, I guess we're moving back. So we went down and moved everything back up. And, it's hard to get away from the Midwest. Everybody, you try to move away, it always brings you back. But I've got a new appreciation for it now. I got to experience the South again, and it's a lot hotter than I remembered. And I was like, you know what? Now South Dakota wasn't so bad. I can deal with a little bit of snow and stuff, but at least while the kids are going to school and everything, I'll be around here and just trying to be that family guy as much as possible.
So you win this fight, you get the 185 belt. Is that something? I mean, are you're content with sticking at 185? You look like you could fight at 205 and do fine, but I also heard you have like thought about going down to 175. Is that true at all?
Yeah. So 205 is probably out of the question. Even though I'm a huge 85er, I'm a pretty average 205er, and a lot of my advantages come from being a larger opponent. Like I made my style to be a battering ram for 185ers. 170, is it 170 or 175?
It's 75, I believe.
75, yeah. So 75 is doable. I think I could absolutely wreck some dudes in that division, but the speed advantage that they do hold is something that you got to consider. 85ers is still a little bit slow a lot of the time. So if you can, show up huge and about as fast as them, if not a little faster, you can pretty much destroy the 85 division, and it's got some monsters in there too. But, 205, now you're getting up there and these dudes, they're like 6'5", sometimes 6'6", cutting from 240, and all my advantages kind of just dip away. And yeah, we'll see. 70 and 85 is probably doable.
You're a guy who's got like the good body. Do you like exercising and dieting and stuff, or are you anti that?
I hate it, man. I hate working out. I've been doing this shit since I was 13 years old, and that's one. If when I win this fight, it's going to be mostly because of my physical trainer. Austin's calling me every day. Every day, this dude's on the phone right away in the morning. Sup, man? I'm on my way over. Hey, you on your way yet? And I'm just like, fuck, man. We just worked out last night. I just did 3 workouts yesterday. I'm like, can I at least like enjoy a few minutes of my morning without even just not thinking about working out? And this dude's like, I'll see you there. And if I don't answer, he'll be like sending me like little like Family Guy messages and shit with like Herbert the pervert. Where you at? Missing my paper boy. Just all sorts of stuff, just messing with me. Now I'm laughing my ass off, trying to enjoy my breakfast and everything. And so, I'll go hit a workout, and, then I try to get a little bit of work done. Now I got another workout, and then I got to, get with the kids, and I got another workout. So it's insane. But, when I win this fight, it'll be because of Austin Peterson. He's the best. He understands how not just to build someone up physically, but he understands psychologically how each individual client of his works. So he knows whether he needs to be a hard ass, needs to be funny, whether it needs to be consistent, whether like whatever it is, he just fills that niche, and it works great. And people see tremendous results with him. So it's really cool.
When you win this fight, like I said, is the Jared Warren thing on the table? If he wins, I was told that the Career versus Warren thing is #1 contender. Is that a fight that you want to get back, or you're so over it with all the past bullshit that you don't even like? If you have the belt, you're not gonna like want to fight him.
Dude, I wanted this so bad for so long. I did kind of get over it, but I've never said no to a fight in my life. I don't care, but I am eyeballing bigger things. I've been fighting for 20 years now, and I'm ready to make some money. And I want to get up there and I want to fight some UFC fighters. I want to fight, the freaking, the Jake Pauls. I want to get out there. I want to get a big ass paycheck. I've been putting everything on hold for this. I've lost almost everything to this career. I've got a business that it's hard to struggle with. Family time, it's an absolute murder show. And like it's time for this to pay off, you know, and I'm 34. I'm not getting any younger. I need to be able to get up there, smash a couple dudes, and I'm trying to make, you know, Perry money. Like I want to make $1 million a fight. What do I got to do? I feel like I've got the skills, I've got the determination, I'm putting all this work into it, so I'm ready to get it. So after this fight, you know, I want Perry. You know, I want that platinum belt. You know, I want Romero. Bring me somebody that is gonna. I need one fight that's gonna make it worth it. You know, I'll come back and fight Jared. I'll come back and clear out the whole 85 division forever. But I need a break. You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
I've been doing this for so long that, you know, I probably put 100 grand into this sport minimum, and that does include all the time. And I'm not saying I don't hate that. I knew what I was getting myself into, but you know, I'm ready for it. You know, I'm here. I've built myself up for this very moment. I'll get that belt, and then it's like, let's go. You know, let's make that big step and you know, pay off everything that I've been working for.
All right. I want you to spend time with your kids. So my last question for you. Do you remember the first time you were in a fight, the first time like in elementary school, the first street fight you were in? Do you remember the first time you punched somebody out of anger? Not a relative, like an actual, like somebody else. Do you remember the first time?
You know, I was a pretty nice kid. I for the longest time, I just kind of like let people beat my ass when I was a kid. Like I didn't like hurting people, and
Okay.
I had the strength to do it. But at the time, it felt like it hurt me more to hurt somebody else than it did to just let them hurt me. You know, I was a tough guy. So I put up with a lot of shit for a long time. And this one time at recess, this kid that had been messing with me for a while, he ended up jumping off the playground and like death kicked me in the chest and just
Jeez.
sent me straight to the ground. And I, uh, I, I ended up going home. You know, I told my mom, and you know, she's a Southern mom, and you know, she was just like, "All right, Josh," she's like, "You're a good kid. I'm tired of hearing about people messing with you and you're not doing anything about it." And I was like, well, I just don't want to get in trouble, you know? And she's like, I'll tell you what, she's like, from here on out, anybody mess with you, you smash them and I'll have your back. And I was like, oh shit, somebody that's going to have my back for one. Let's get it. Freaking went back to school. And that same kid, he was coming at me at the playground. And I told the teacher, and the teacher, you know, held him in for half the recess and let his ass back out. So now he's super pissed. You know, comes up to me and he's just like, oh, you told on me, huh? He's like, now I'm going to beat your ass hard. And I just was like, you know, I'm over this. And I punched him in the stomach as hard as I could. And he just fell to the ground, you know, gasping for air, you know, half throwing up all over the place and just crying. And he ran and told the teacher, and I got detention. And I was just like, damn. I'm like, this is what it is. But my mom had my back, and I told her what happened. I was just like, yeah, it's the same guy. But he never messed with me again.
Okay. Is there any message, shout out, sponsors you want to thank before we call it a night?
Um, well, definitely my team. You know, I always shout out Austin Peterson. You know, I definitely feel like I've mentioned him quite a few times tonight, so I won't go too crazy on him. But you know, Storm Athlete Management, you know, they've been taking care of me for a while. And if there's anybody watching this that's like trying to get into bare knuckle, just like all fighting organizations, you got to understand that there's a lot of shitty managers out there that will lie to you. They will steal your money. They'll do a lot of things. It's a shady industry, you know, and you got to understand that when you get in. Um, but you know, Kevin Smith over at Storm used to be called Smith Brothers, but it's called Storm now. The dude's never lied to me. He's charged me a fair rate. He's always had my back. He said everything he said he was going to do. He's bought me plane tickets. He's flown me out. He didn't have to do these things. You know, it's not your manager's job to, you know, extend you money when you need it, shit. But the dude's always been there for me, and it's the only manager I've ever had that didn't screw me over, you know, with the contract. Or are you really getting 5,000? Or are you getting 3,500? Do you really have a plane ticket waiting? Do you even have a fight? Like, there's a lot of bullshit that goes on, and you know, Kevin's always been there. So definitely give a big shout out to him. And you know, that's those are the biggest ones coming to my mind at the moment. Oh, and Doll Chainsaw Art. I cannot stress enough. Those dudes have they hooked it up at Sturgis. Doll Chainsaw Art. Yeah, my buddy Jordan. He ended up letting us rent out his whole mansion, you know, for us. We had the whole family out there, our whole fight team. They make some of the best artwork with chainsaws out of freaking wood you've ever seen in your life. They'll show up and carve a bald eagle that looks real, and then they'll dip out. And it's crazy. Those guys they're phenomenal. They're going to be at the fight, so it's going to be cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. When you win, I look forward to talking to you again. Hopefully, I have a little more time, but I appreciate your time. Thanks so much. We love you on the Reddit, and I can't wait to watch you fight.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
Yep, bye.